And this is not the first time that we're going to see a mirror. It certainly won't be the last time because this is the kind of the deck to beat going this weekend. Now, for what it's worth, I do think the deck can be beat.
Yes.
I think it's a really, really good deck, but it can be beat.
Well, one of the things that makes this deck so good is that it's so consistent.
Yeah, it's kind of weird in the fact that, is it the most powerful deck? I'm not sure.
It's up there. I mean, when you start with a turn 3 Planeswalker, turn 4 Planeswalker, that's just kind of bonkers.
It's a great start.
Yeah.
No question. You know, is it the most powerful thing you can be doing? Like, is the power level of your cards high? Of course the power level of your cards is high. Is it the most powerful? I don't know. But part of where you get your power is from your consistency, as you mentioned. You've got really good mana.
Yep.
You have Oath of Nissa to smooth things out and find basically anything you want.
Well, that's just it. With 4 Oath of Nissa, this deck almost always opens with a 2-drop, 3-drop, 4-drop.
Yeah. That's a really nice thing about this. You've got 8 dual lands to work with in Canopy Vista and Fortified Village. You've got Planeswalkers, which are obviously great. You've got Removal and Declaration Stone, Stasis Snare, whatever you want to do. And then, the big one, Jamoka's Command.
Yeah.
You're one of the few decks that can play that. And that, a lot of people are saying that might be the best card in the format.
Well, that card's really important. A lot of people feel like Cryptolith Rites is one of the decks that can match up well against this deck.
Yeah.
And having 4 Jamoka's Commands, you can fight off either their important creature, or you can just get rid of the enchantment, the Cryptolith Rite.
Bimonte is going to keep his 6. Pardon me, it's actually 5.
That's not a lot of cards.
No, it's not. Here's a Forest. Looks like Oath of Nissa. He'll take a look at the top couple. You saw Ingram just start off with a Fortified Village and pass the turn back. Bimonte looking, it looks like 2 Nissas and an Archangel Avacyn. See what card he wants to take. He'll go with Nissa.
And the green-white tokens deck is one of the few decks that can be pretty happy about deploying a turn 2 Hangerback Walker.
Absolutely.
A lot of decks, it's very underwhelming if that's their first play. It's just not impactful enough. But the green-white deck, it's going to get more tokens onto that Hangerback Walker as the game goes on. And when it gets blown up, the other little tokens that are left around, the Thopters, are also going to get bigger from various effects.
You saw Ingram with a Plains and a Sylvan Advocate as we head back Matt's way. We know he's got a Nissa. And now here's another Oath of Nissa. So, take a look at the top couple. Jamoka's Command in there. That's a card he cannot select, but he will take a Forest. That might be his land for the turn. We'll see as the cards go to the bottom of the deck.
And we've seen an evolution in this deck where it's a little crazy to think about, but people have been showing up with Chandra Flamecallers in the deck.
Yeah, Raph Levy.
With no red sources. You're just running it off of the Oath of Nissas. And I'm sure it's great in the mirrors, especially when no one's expecting it because you're not playing any red sources.
That's a weird, like, deck building thing.
Yeah.
By doing that, just saying I have no mana to cast this card. If I draw it and I don't draw Oath of Nissa, I can never do anything. But my Oath of Nissas are not going to die.
Yep.
Because why would anyone kill that? It doesn't really do anything. But I have to imagine that Raph took so many people by surprise that weekend when he did that to people.
Yes. And we talk about the creative deck building sometimes and how the people with the imaginations often find these things that you and I would not be able to see.
Well, if someone told me they were going to play 2 Chandras in this deck with no red mana, I'd get out of here.
Yeah, I would have been like, hey, well, why are you throwing away this tournament?
Yeah, I'm not listening to this conversation. I don't know what you're doing with these Chandras. You got to open your mind in deck building a little bit because it is kind of low risk.
Yes.
And the upside is very high. Bimonte does have a Nissa on turn 3, plant on the way, so we head back over to Ingram. Just his 3 lands on the battlefield and his Sylvan Advocate. So Pete kept 7, Matt has 5. You see a quick block. But does Pete have a Planeswalker? Well, in the way he's tapping, man, it looks like he does have a Gideon, and he does. So the ally of Zendikar is here, and it might be bringing along a Knight ally with it in just a moment.
Oh, yeah.
And it will be a Knight ally in a passing of the turn.
This is a pretty strong start for Pete, especially against an opponent who's a little bit choked on cards. It looks like Matt has his 4th land drop, so he's going to be able to keep deploying whatever he's drawing.
Yeah, there's one thing that you have to take into account with Gideon. So much better on the play than it is on the draw.
Yeah.
And in this instance, Peter got to make a Knight ally, and now he gets to kind of dictate the terms of engagement with Gideon. Now Sylvan Advocate's going to come down. You'll find a Jamoka's Command that's going to put a counter there and take care of the other Sylvan Advocate. And now he gets to use Nissa however he'd like to. So Bimonte is, he's fighting back.
Oh, he's definitely in this game. We're going to see a lot of this. You said we're going to see a lot of the green-white mirrors. We're going to see a lot of this where the board is kind of gummed up. It's not real clear who's in the driver's seat. and the game has to progress a little more to see how things are going to shake down.
For Ingram, looks like he's got a little bit to think about here. One of the more difficult things, I'd say two of the most difficult things in this format. One, how to use Jamoka's command.
Yeah.
Because it's so powerful.
Well, and in a matchup like this, Archangel Avacyn is just such a powerful trump card. It flies, it saves all of the tokens in combat so that you can make just a ridiculous attack or block, and then it takes out the Planeswalkers with its evasion. So burning an early Jamoka's command might not be the best thing that you can be doing.
And the other question, of course, is how to use Gideon. When do you go to the emblem? When do you go to the Night Ally?
Yep.
You know, when do you go to attacking with it? It looks like Ingram is activating Gideon to make it a 5/5, and this works out favorably with Jamoka's command. So now you're going to get a counter there, and then Gideon is going to fight Sylvan Advocate. So now the Night Ally is a 3/3. Gideon, of course, is a 5/5, and now here come the beatdowns. The plant token looks like it's going to do some blocking. I have to imagine Ingram's trying to get that Nissa off the battlefield.
Yep.
So it's going to fall down to 2 counters, so we head back over to Bimonte. Bimonte has found land number 5 for Avacyn number 1, and that's pretty important stuff.
Yes.
That's the kind of card that when you're on a mulligan to 5, if your opponent makes an error with attacking, you can really take advantage of it. There is land 5.
And it looks like the other card in his hand is Secure the Way. Yep. So he definitely has resources to work with here.
There's a game to be played.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Let's go over to Ingram. Ingram looks like he's a little land heavy. I know there are at least 2 lands over there. The thing that just makes this green-white token stack so good, we talked about the consistency, but when you actually just look at the individual power level of some of these cards, Gideon Command, Westvale Abbey, Archangel Avacyn, you can argue you're playing the best cards in the format, too.
Yes. And you mentioned that he looks land heavy, but this deck is able to do so many things with its resources. So even if Peter just has a bunch of lands in his hand, the Westvale Abbey is going to be able to churn out some tokens and then turn into Ormondal.
Yeah.
Which is just a pretty good place to be.
There are worse spots.
You know, and you got lots of lands. I mean, Secure the Waste is going to make more guys. It's just, when I was looking at these lists and the evolution of this green-white deck, I was surprised at how high the land counts were with 4 Oath of Nissa. But it just leans towards the consistency of the deck, and it's able to operate with 6, 7 lands and do powerful things with them.
So you saw Ingram go after Gideon. I actually kind of like the play here by Bimonte. He could have just tried to pull the trigger on Secure to block or Archangel Avacyn. Instead he says, you know what, all right, you got my Planeswalker. That's down. Trying to hide Archangel Avacyn as best he can to make it have a huge impact at some point.
Well, and he doesn't want to run headlong into an opposing Archangel of Avacyn.
Also true.
So being a little more cagey about how you play it is probably wise.
Yeah, the Archangel Avacyn games are they're unpleasant. Because if you get it wrong, I feel like you get punished badly. That's one of the things. Now, let's see what we got here.
Oh, it was not an Archangel Avacyn.
Never mind. See, it's a Westvale Abbey.
We got tricked by the rare flip token card.
Yeah, no one ever plays the checklist card for the land. Now, all right. Given that it's not an Archangel Avacyn, he's got 5 creatures in the battlefield. Are we making our move here? He has a land in hand.
Yeah, this is a tough call. The thing is, his thought process, I've already mulled the 5. My opponent still has a bunch of cards in their hand. This Gideon is getting big. I can't really combat the Gideon or the Knight tokens well. Maybe you just move in here on a big demon, and you just hope that your opponent doesn't have the answer.
Yeah, I hope there's no Declaration Stone, Stakes to Snare, any of the answers that are traditionally played. I think that's reasonable. I'm taking a look at Pete's deck list. I don't see a good way to beat Ormondal.
He does have 2 Declaration Stone in the main deck.
I play one way. I go for it.
Well, and it's funny because we know some of the cards in Pete's hand. He's got a lot of lands. But there's the potential that Pete is able to Secure the Waste and create his own demon.
Yeah, his own
next turn, and then we just have a couple of Ormondals kind of staring at each other.
Yep. All right, Ormondal. The Profane Prince is here. I think you just clobber Gideon.
Yeah.
All right, Archangel Avison said nope. Bimonte's going to get to gain some life.
A lot of life.
Yep. Now Archangel Avison's here. And now we're going to head back Ingram's way. So we're in an interesting spot because we'll see if he has Declaration in Stone or not. And does he even need Declaration in Stone right now? I think this game is an interesting spot where he doesn't actually have to deal with this thing right away. He's got some life to work with. There's a Knight Ally, maybe. Okay.
Yep. Nope. Yep. Nope. Yep.
Yeah, he's going to take it.
Knight Ally. I would think if he had a clean answer to Ormondal that it would just get played right away.
It'd be dead right away, yeah. See how Peter wants to attack this turn.
He's trying to race 9 points a turn of lifelink.
That's not easy.
No. You have to be way ahead on the board.
Well, there's an attack by Archangel Avison and that 3/3 Knight Ally. And now we head back over to Bimonte. So Bimonte will draw. Looks like it may have been another secure. There's a land.
And it looks like Pete's setting himself up to flip his own Westvale Abbey in the near future. We saw him make the Knight token when he could have just attacked for 5, or he could have just made an emblem. So he wants the creatures on the board.
So if you're Matt here in this spot, where are you attacking?
I think you still have to go after Gideon.
Okay. Just too powerful?
Yeah, it just has so much flexibility in all of its different abilities. If you leave it on the board, then Pete can make a token with the Westvale Abbey and then make a token on his own turn with the Gideon and then flip the Westvale Abbey.
Okay. Well, it looks like he did not go after Gideon. And so now it looks like Ingram is going to be making a little Westvale Abbey token action. The Human Cleric. Of course, you'll have to pay a life to do as much, and you see Bimonte up to 29. This is not the first time we've seen in these green-white mirrors Ormondal show up and the other player maybe having to go towards Ormondal to beat it.
Sure.
All right, Ingram will draw. Canopy Vista, not what he's looking for.
Yeah, like you said, Pete is kind of flooded out here, but he's been able to use the lands to good effect each turn.
Has another copy of Westvale Abbey in hand. And now I'm curious to see where he wants to go because it's always this kind of uncomfortable feeling of moving in with Westvale Abbey and Ormondal.
Yeah.
You know, if my opponent has an answer, I'm basically dead immediately.
Well, he can move in on his own Westvale Abbey and still have Gideon on the board, which is favorable against just Ormondal on the other side.
All right, pass the turn back. I don't even know if he attacked with Archangel Avison. I think he may have missed that.
Well, he might not want to run it headlong into an opposing Archangel of Avison.
Completely fair. Completely fair. Now we're trying to get those 4 points. Something can go wrong there.
Yeah, I mean, Matt's at 29, and he's going to be gaining more from that Ormondal however he attacks with it.
Yep.
So Pete's saying the risk of just throwing this angel into the graveyard or having to use it for Ormondal right away is not worth the 4 points when my opponent has so much life total to work with.
Ormondal's coming in again here for Matt. Ingram has reached for his Archangel Avison and now deciding if he wants to block with this or if he says, I just will make Ormondal now and block. I think he's going to transform into Ormondal.
Cashing the whole team. Cha-ching.
They're all gone. But as you mentioned, I think one of the important things here is that he's got a Gideon left behind.
Yep. And he's going to buffer his life total here. See, and this is why I think Matt should have attacked that Gideon last turn.
Sure. Just to have that off the battlefield?
Well, it either would have killed the Gideon or Pete would have had to block with Dark Angel Avacyn, and either way it would have meant that Pete could not transform his own Westville Abbey on that turn.
Sure, sure. All right, Pete will make a Knight Ally, pass the turn back over to Matt. There is Secure the Waste again. So 5 Warriors on the way.
Yeah, these little guys are not very impactful right now.
Yeah, at this stage.
Yeah.
Not that big of a deal.
I mean, Gideon's got tons of counters on it. Ormondal means that you can't just like alpha strike into these. The Knight is clearly bigger. It might have been worth it just to wait on that card and build up a few more lands if you draw them, and maybe try to catch your opponent off guard with it at some point, because the 1/1s right now are not doing anything.
Well, I believe Matt has found a Declaration in Stone.
Yeah, that's a good draw.
That is not a bad draw at all. So here is Declaration in Stone.
Lucky duckies.
Indeed. Now, one thing about Declaration in Stone, exile target creature and all other creatures, its controller controls.
Yep.
It's not like Bioblight. So Ingram will lose his Ormondal, but Matt Bimonte will not. And I think Matt's follow-up is actually a Gideon.
Well, that's what I get for saying these tokens are not very impactful.
Yeah. So Gideon's going to get cashed in. It'll make an emblem. All the creatures are going to get +1/+1. That means that now Ormondal's a 10/8. All of those Warriors from Secure the Waste are 2/2s.
Thanks for making me look like a doofus here, Matt. I appreciate that.
And I think it might be red zone time. Now, again, here the question is, do I ignore Gideon? And I think in this instance, you can safely ignore it.
Well, he has the option to chop it up if he wants to. He's got so many guys on the board. He can send Ormondal at Gideon and all of the tokens at Pete. He'll get in a significant chunk of damage and get the Gideon off the board.
Yep.
I think that's the play I would make here.
So all the creatures coming in. You saw Ingram sacrifice that clue token, picked up a copy of Evolutionary Leap, a card that has certainly been making its way into main decks of green-white tokens recently.
And once again, getting that Gideon off the board means it's harder for Pete to activate the second Westville Abbey that he has in play.
Human Cleric on the way here at the cost of a life for Ingram. He's going to fall down to 18. And a couple of blockers here. So a Warrior will fall down. That'll trade with a Knight Ally. The rest of the Knuckleheads will come through. And it looks like Gideon is still just going to be hanging out here. It appears. As we head back over to Ingram. Ingram's a 2.
Yeah, it's 16 points came through there.
It's like a Nissa Vaswitzir may have been the draw this turn. That's not going to help all that much.
I think Matt's at a very comfortable 48 right now, but we're seeing 47.
Yeah, I think
probably negligible.
You think so? Yeah. We will confirm that life total for Matt. Should have 10, not 9, I believe.
Modern Challenge players, the Pairing Spears second round are now posted.
See players confirming the life totals.
It's Modern down to
Yeah, 48 it is. Good eye, Sniper. Well done.
Sometimes you get lucky.
Yeah.
It was tough because I ran out of fingers and toes when I was doing the math.
Gotcha. Ingram's going to pack it in. So Matt Bimonte is going to win game number 1 here over Peter Ingram. Green-white tokens mirror goes to the players on the left so far. Mulligan a 5, too.
Well, and we saw everything that the deck does there. We saw, even on the Mold of 5 with the double oath, it was super consistent. It helps smooth out the draws. And then it can do some very powerful things even when it has a lot of lands in play.
It's a very powerful deck.
Yeah.
That's for sure. We're going to start with Peter Ingram and his sideboard. 3-planar Outburst, 2 Nissa Vaswitzir, 2 Linvala the Preserver, 2 Lamhold Pacifist, a Secure the Waste, a Den Protector, 2 Stasis Snare, and 2 Declaration in Stone. Greg, let's break down the green-white mirror. What do we like here from Peter?
Oh, geez. So I expect to see a lot of these sweeper effects come in. The planar outbursts and the Declaration in Stones. Maybe even the Stasis Snares. This deck is a little bit insulated against the opposing Dramokus commands. So when you play a card like Stasis Snare, you're not as scared that it's going to get blown up and the creature's going to come back because you have Oath of Nissa sitting around on your board.
That's true. That's true. It's interesting. There's a lot of different ways you can go. Like, you can take an aggressive route in game 2 when you're on the play. You can take a more controlling route with Plantar Outburst, Nissa Vaswitz and Linvala. I don't know what you do here if you're Peter.
These decks are so intricate and so powerful that you really need to put your reps in. You need to get a whole lot of practice to know what you want your game plan to be. All of my focus on Standard recently has been on either Black-White Control or the Bant Collected Company deck. And so this is not a deck that I have got masterful grasp on the best way to attack it.
On Matt's side, 2 Nissa Vaswitz, 2 Stasis Snare, 2 Linvala of his own, 2 Declaration Stone, a Den Protector, a Evolutionary Leap, a Hollowed Moonlight, 3 Plantar Outburst, and then 1 Tragic Arrogance. So a pretty similar side.
Yep. The question, the Tragic Arrogance, maybe it's just better than Planar Outburst in a lot of situations.
See, the thing, I think it can be worse in a lot of situations.
It can.
Like your opponent can have a certain draw where it just doesn't do much of anything, which is a real concern, but also they can have a draw where it is terrific.
Yeah, when you get to make all the choices, sometimes you're going to leave yourself with an Archangel Avacyn and a big Planeswalker, and you're going to leave them with a plant token and a Planeswalker that immediately dies to your Avacyn, and you're just so far ahead on the board.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if that'll come in. I think it'll come in because it's just so powerful.
Yeah.
But I think it can lead to some really interesting situations for Matt. So we'll see how these players do on a sideboard. It is a difficult matchup to sideboard for, so that's why it's taken a little bit of time here. In the meantime, we will talk about StarCityGames.com Game Night, the very popular promotion where this week in June, and it's on our lapels right now, my friend.
Ooh, the Otter Spell.
Yes, the very powerful Otter Spell, which is a play on
Lightning Bolt.
Correct. Now we take a look at July, and we have Snipcaster Mage.
Yep.
You a fan?
The Snapcrabber Mage?
Yeah, Snapcrabber Mage, a little snippy here. I like this for July. And the new one, which we unveiled in Atlanta for August, Young Burrowmancer.
Dude, that guy's sweet.
Right? He's got some flames here. He's hanging out, probably doing a little bit of digging. Who knows? He's got some cool sunglasses on.
Yeah, I mean, whatever donkeys do.
Go.starcitygames.com/game night for more information. Get signed up today for this awesome promotion that's been very popular and successful because of all you guys out there at home. So thank you very much as we get ready here for game number 2. Pete Ingram's down a game, which means he'll be on the play. We can learn more about the SCG Indie Champion, where he got the job done with Jeskai Control and Modern. Really had a huge effect on the entire Modern format with that win. That deck was a really good deck, I think.
That deck was great. One of the evolutions of that deck, the Planeswalker being Nahiri being an answer and the big finisher all in one. It takes care of artifacts and enchantments. It cycles through your deck to clean up your draws, and then it just finishes the game real fast.
Now, apparently Peter's name has been turned into its own language, courtesy of Ben Friedman and Alex Magellan. I don't know what that means.
I don't know what that means.
I'm going to have to ask Peter about that. Now, I know Ben and Alex, and they're both two ridiculous people.
Sure.
So I'm sure there's a good story here. He's a big Coheed and Cambria fan, which I can certainly respect, and he collects retro video games.
Okay.
So I'm going to have to talk to him about that. I'm a fan of video games.
A little Golden Axe battles or something.
Yeah,
like that?
how far do we go? What does he consider as a 25-year-old to be retro?
Well, there's gaming systems which were out before NES, say.
Yes.
Before Atari was Atari.
Yeah.
And they weren't huge, but they're very popular and collectible now.
Like for me, a retro video game that I played a lot last weekend at Grand Prix was NBA Jam.
Okay. Yeah.
We were at a barcade, and there was an NBA Jam machine, and there was also Primal Rage.
Wait. But before we move on from NBA Jam, cheat codes or no cheat codes?
No cheat codes.
No, you don't want to run around and you could be like Bill Clinton. In
no
that,
cheat codes.
Right?
No cheat codes. No, I think in that one you can, but I don't remember the cheat codes.
Okay.
I used to play with the cheat codes. We used to play really cool people. It was myself and John Pelkak. We were playing as the Orlando Magic. Shaquille O'Neal and Scott Skiles, a dynamic duo.
Oh, yeah.
Against Tom Ross and Michael Majors playing as Karl Malone and John Stockton. Now, as an NBA fan, I think you know this. John Stockton typically averages 57 points per game.
Yeah, that's
in his NBA career.
Yeah,
and it kind of shone through when we were playing NBA Jam. Scored a lot of points. Tom Ross is a mean John Stockton. He's mean on the battlefield of Magic, and he doesn't let up during NBA Jam either.
Who got the best of it in the long run?
I think we were one game better than them. We actually had a game go to overtime that they won.
Okay, so it was actually just great.
It was really competitive.
Nice.
Really competitive. And for as little as Tom Ross says at the table, and he's not a really talkative guy, he gets a little amped up during NBA Jam.
He saves it for the NBA Jam matchups.
He'll let you know when the three's working. Okay, I'll tell you that much. When he's raining the threes, he'll let you know. From Matt Bimonte, it looks like we have ourselves a Nissa, Voice of Zendikar. Perhaps. Actually, see, they tricked me again. These checklist cards, they gotta go. Okay, this is a Nissa Vastwood Seer. These checklist cards need to go.
Yep.
He's gonna search up a basic forest. For Pete, he has a Nissa, Voice of Zendikar on 4 counters, a plant token, and then a Hangerback Walker on 1. There we go. Battlefield all cleared up. Both players have an Oath of Nissa, and now we go back over to Peter Ingram.
And Ingram has that really strong, consistent start that I talked about earlier. Turn 1, the Oath. Turn 2, a 2-drop. Turn 3, a Planeswalker. He just missed on turn 4 Planeswalker here.
Yep. He does have a Gideon, but that's coming down the road. See, Westville Abbey. Maybe he's working towards that this game. Nissa Voice of Zendikar is such a weird card. Like, 0-1 plant, who cares? And then all of a sudden, you care a lot.
Well, like we said earlier, it's deceptive. When I saw this on the spoiler, I was like, oh, this is all right. It's kind of doing some weird, neat things. It seems like a win more card. When you're ahead, it's really good.
Mm-hmm.
And then the first time I played against it in Limited, my opponent just played it on turn 3, and he made a plant every turn over and over. I'm just like, how can I ever win? Like, I attack, he chump blocks with the plant every single turn, but eventually this thing's just going to ultimate, draw him a million cards.
And gain him a bunch of life.
And in the meantime, his other creatures are beating up on me.
Here's a Gideon for Bimonte. So he's got Gideon first, but Ingram is pretty well situated around a Gideon right now.
Yes. 2
Hangerback Walkers, Nissa pumping out plants. He's going to have a Gideon of his own soon. I think he's in a pretty good spot to be able to deal with that Planeswalker.
Yeah, if Nissa starts going down, these Hangerback Walkers become a big problem.
Yeah, that's the question. How does Ingram want to go about using his Nissa now?
And he already has the Westville Abbey on the board, so when these tokens start spewing out, they can be cashed in for a big demon.
Yep.
He's got a lot of options.
He's got a lot to think about, as you can see.
And that's one of the things that makes this deck the best deck in the format. When you play Gideon and you play Nissa, they've got 3 different options on them that are all powerful.
Yep. Well, Ingram is in the tank. And we'll see what he wants to come out with here. He does have a Fortified Village in hand. You saw last turn the main phase activation of Hangerback Walker. Just want to make sure it's going to get its counters. Now here's Gideon. Starts on 4. Wants to make sure he uses the right die there. The black ones we like to have for Planeswalkers, the white ones for counters on creatures on the battlefield, all that stuff. Make it clear for everybody at home. Gideon is going to make an emblem, and now this is going to tick down.
Yeah, he's going big.
Yep. So Hangerback Walker, yeah, all these creatures are pretty big. This is what you talked about, though.
Yeah, it just explodes.
Yeah.
The turn 2 1/1 Hangerback Walker, you're like, who cares about this? And then all of a sudden it's just a 4/4 Hangerback Walker, and if it dies, it makes 3 2/2 flyers.
One of the things that's really unique, too, in situations like this, because there's an emblem and those plants have counters, you look at them and you'd say, oh, okay, 2/3, not a big deal. But the fact that they're 2/3s, like on this battlefield, you look at it and it's just like, oh man, I can't really trade effectively.
Yeah.
If they were 2/2s, it would be really annoying. But they're 2/3s. They have an extra point of toughness, so I can't really block the way I want to. And now they're all going after Gideon. So now Matt has to figure out, do I have any effective blocks here? Is it worth it to try to keep this Gideon alive? Can I accomplish anything right now? I'm not sure the answer to that question is yes.
Well, they're all going after Gideon. They're all threats, and where they came from, Nissa, is still sitting on the board. So Matt's thinking about making 2 chump blocks.
Oh, Matt made a lot of blocks, and he's left with nothing. Those blocks are curious.
Those blocks, he might have forgotten about the emblem.
The emblem, yeah.
Bonus there. I think his idea was I'll make 2 chump blocks, and then I'll also have Gideon on the board to swing back and finish off the Nissa.
Yep, and that's just not
and
the case.
I think he just forgot that the emblem was also buffing all of those creatures.
Yeah, now he loses all of his stuff. So now the tough part here is, and this is what we kind of talked about. You see, he's a little bit of frustration on his side. He has a Tragic Arrogance in hand. Feel free.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
so that's kind of the variance of Tragic Arrogance. Like, in some games, it's going to be awesome. It's a horrible card right now. It's uncastable right now.
But to be fair, even if it was a planar outburst right now,
It'd also be bad.
it would not be good.
Yeah.
It would be better,
Slightly.
slightly, yeah.
Slightly better.
But
That's just the kind of the swings of that card. It's always going to be really good against humans. In this matchup, I feel like to a degree you can't even really control how good it's going to be.
yeah.
You're at the mercy of your opponent's draw.
Well, and Pete played in a very smart way there, where he got the hangerback walkers bigger, which plays around a sweeping wrath effect. He got the opposing planeswalker off the board right away, which kind of plays around Tragic Arrogance. So the decisions that he made were also just very smart.
Yep. This is going to tick down, put +1/+1 counters on all the creatures on Peter Ingram's side. Now here's an Archangel Avacyn. That's actually now Linvala. No. There you go.
Hey, I've got this one in reserve, just so you know.
Linvala wants to come join next turn. Perhaps it will. We'll find out, assuming there is a next turn. For now, here's Archangel Avacyn. Trigger will likely resolve, and now we'll get to do some blocking.
Yeah, it's funny. It gets to eat a plant, just barely.
Yeah, just barely is right.
But Matt's going to take a whole bunch of damage here.
Well, Linvala's going to have to be on kind of comeback duty.
Yeah.
Which is something it does a really nice job of. It is going to be a lot of damage, though. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 just from Hangerback Walkers alone. And then 10, 11, 12 from the plant that gets through.
Yep.
So Bimonte's going to fall down to 7, but he will get to kill a plant token. Let's see what the follow-up is here from Ingram. He's just going to pass the turn back. I'm sure he has nothing to do. This green-white deck just runs out of things to do all the time. It's so unfortunate. There's a forest. That's land number 6 for perhaps Linvala number 1.
Yeah, I don't think he has a choice of any other line of play here.
Now, Linvala is actually pretty good on this board. He's got less creatures, less life, so you're going to get both parts of it. And I wouldn't be afraid to slam that thing down. You go up to 12, you get a 3/3 Angel, you got a lot of flyers. Nissa, of course, taken out with Avacyn. This is a spot for me where I just don't want to overthink it.
Sure.
I don't think there's much better you can do than Linvala right now.
There's probably not, but Matt is still in a spot where, he has to start trading with these hangerbacks. But if he does trade with them, with his flyers, then he doesn't have flyers to get in front of the tokens that are left around. And, he might just be playing himself into a corner. So he's going to think about it, take his time, see if there's another line where potentially there's a better play.
He does have Stasis Snare in hand, which is kind of affecting his decision-making because it is a very powerful card in this situation.
Well, and he was probably thinking a little bit about Tragic Arrogance there.
Sure.
Can I Tragic Arrogance, live through the turn, and then have Linvala come down and then be able to fight the tokens that are left on the board?
You saw Ingram make a Cleric with Westvale Abbey on the end of Bimonte's turn. So one thing that Bimonte can try to set up here is Tragic Arrogance next turn, where he has Archangel Avacyn left over, so that it can transform and maybe wipe some things away. I think maybe that's the big plan. So this is kind of interesting. Now, the difficult thing is that all he has is Angels in play.
Yep.
And with Archangel Avacyn's text, which we'll take a look at, this doesn't come up very often. It actually won't transform, because when a non-angel creature you control dies. This doesn't happen a ton, but here we are.
That flavor's a little funny.
A touch.
When one of the underlings dies, she gets really upset and fiery and vengeful. But if a fellow angel dies, she just kind of shrugs it off.
Yeah.
And
I'm off it.
Yeah, who cares about them?
Yeah.
That angel should have looked out for himself or herself.
Well, an angel did block, because that Hangerback Walker was coming across for 5, and that's quite a bit. But Avacyn and Linvala looking to team up to get some work done. Let's see what this is from Ingram. It's a Nissa Vastwoods here, which means he's going to search up a forest, which means we'll see a transformation here in just a moment.
Just more gas every turn.
Green and white doesn't really ever run out of things to do. And Den Protector hasn't even gotten involved yet.
Yeah.
Or Evolutionary Leap. So the Sage Animist is here. Ingram, how does he want to use it? Up to 4. Declaration in Stone.
Not bad.
It's a pretty good one.
Probably get the Avacyn off the board here.
I think it's probably the better of the two.
Well, yeah, if Linvala wants to take out that Planeswalker, it's got to tap to do it.
Yeah. It's the bigger of the two. I'm a little surprised to see that be the target to Linvala. Ingram will pass the turn back. Let's go Bimonte's way.
There's also the thought that the opponent's deck has 4 Archangels in it. So there's a much higher chance that he's got another Archangel Avacyn in his hand.
Sure. Land number 7 came down very quickly there for Matt. He's in 2 spell per turn territory. Gideon plus Stasis Snare. X plus Stasis Snare. He's got a Hangerback Walker in his hand.
And yeah, he makes the obvious attack of getting Nissa off the board.
Yep.
Which is why I'm a little surprised that he didn't go after the 4/4 with Vigilance.
Mm-hmm. Now remember, Bimonte does have the cool play of Hangerback Walker for 0 to be able to transform.
Yep.
But how far does that get us?
That's actually really, really good if he casts Tragic Arrogance. But the only hitch to this plan is that his opponent has Ormondal waiting.
Yeah, that's a problem. Here's Hangerback for 0. Okay.
Oh, it doesn't look like he's got Tragic Arrogance in his hand. I see a Stasis Snare,
I thought he had Tragic Arrogance this game.
Den Protector, and a Planeswalker.
What did I miss? I thought he had Tragic Arrogance in his hand.
Led us astray again.
Yeah.
Let's see if someone else wants to get in this booth.
Yeah.
And anyone in the crowd.
All right, here's Gideon.
Cast off the Oath of Nissa.
Yep. He's going to plus it because making a token does basically nothing. Hangerback Walker is going to get a counter. 4 counters on it, and there's also a Gideon emblem on the battlefield, so technically a 5/5 now. Archangel Avacyn's going to transform, which means there will be a trigger.
There's all these creatures on the board, and it's going to kill
Was it 1?
one thing.
Nice. Nice. Down goes the Cleric. All right, Ingram. Got a nice board. Can he beat the 6/5 flyer?
You know, Matt's still in a really tough spot, but he's done a good job so far of mitigating, just how out of control the game has gotten.
Mm-hmm.
He still has that Stasis Snare in his hand, which can get rid of one of these Hangerback Walkers so that all the Thopters don't become a huge issue.
Now, there is one thing we should mention as Ingram is working his way to the attack step. 12, 56, 55, 54, 53. Yep. This is no short match.
No, these games that get super grindy are going to go long.
Here's Stasis Snare. Take care of a Hangerback Walker.
You know, when both players have something like Ormondal gaining a bunch of life, all these Planeswalkers doing lots of things every single turn, it can go long. Lots of little decisions to be made.
And I don't think for either one of these players this is going to be their only green-white tokens mirror.
No.
So they're going to have to figure it out a little bit quicker in the future rounds.
And and you don't want to pick up an early draw.
No. Gideon down, by the way, thanks to Hangerback Walker.
In a big event, a long event, that early draw is basically just a loss.
Mm-hmm. Ingram will pass. Bimonte will draw.
It looks like another Stasis Snare.
That's what it did look like. Bimonte coming across for 6 in the air. Now remember, he does have a clue token out there. Hasn't really had the time to sacrifice it, I would say. He's been a little bit busy doing other things, as here's a face-down Den Protector.
Yep.
But still has the option. And now Ingram going to take a look at the graveyard, see what's going on down there. Hangerback Walker, Gideon's, Nissa, all that stuff.
Yeah, we might not have a lot of break time today
No, I don't think so.
if we see a lot of this.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think we're going to have some pretty long matches today.
And considering the way this game started, for Pete to be at 9 and Matt to be at 12 and the board to be at relative parity, it's just pretty absurd.
Oath of Nissa here from Ingram. He's looking at 3 lands.
And this is a situation where, he's got to be aware of the clock. I understand pretending like there's a decision to be made. You don't want to give away too much information. But with 10 minutes left in the round,
And you're down a game.
you oath into 3 lands, you just slam one of them. It doesn't even matter which at this point in the game.
Yeah, just keep moving.
And you keep moving. It's funny because what makes a good Magic player really good is a whole collection of different abilities. So we see this game where there's a lot of decisions to be made. There's some pacing that's involved in it, where you have to have a feel of the tempo of the game. And then there's each little decision about resource management. But then there's things outside the actual game, like being aware of the clock and changing your decisions based on that as well. Matt being up a game, if this goes to time, he's fine with that.
Yeah. He wants to cross the finish line, but the time is certainly in his favor right now as he's going to return a Gideon with Den Protector after unmegamorphed. Planner Outburst in hand now. There's Gideon. Make an emblem again. Maybe we might see Stasis Snare on the Hangerback Walker. The thing that Matt can go for the win right now if he wants to.
Yeah.
Because his Den Protector is 3 power, might be more than, I think only 3 power. I think only 1 emblem. Yeah, 4 power right now.
Yep.
Yeah, with the counter and the emblem, so.
4 power.
Yep.
He has to be a little bit worried or aware of an opposing Archangel Avacyn just swooping in.
Opposing something.
Yeah.
Jamoka's Command, Stasis Snare. Like, do you really believe that Ingram just has nothing? Looks like he's going for it. Stasis Snare is going to target Hangerback Walker, assuming it gets onto the battlefield. The biggest threat that Ingram has, and it's the best target for a Stasis Snare. So there that goes. All right, beatdowns. Either you got it or you don't.
I would have wagered the farm on Pete winning this game after turn 4 or 5.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Matt just did a great job. He didn't panic. He managed each resource very well.
Games are swingy.
Yeah.
That's the other thing, too. Games are swinging, and this one swings in Matt Bimonte's favor. He wins this match over Pete Ingram 2-0. He wins the green-white tokens mirror. It's his first of the day. I don't think it'll be his last. Same can be said for Peter Ingram. And Ingram looks a little dazed and confused after this one, and I would be too.
Yeah.
After around turn 4 or turn 5, I thought he had it all.
Yeah, every now and then you've got a game where you've lost the game and you're thinking about it and you're like, where did this game go wrong?